Okay, we're going to keep it going. So as Doc P said, we've got Alex and Brian Tinsman here. They both advisors for Nemus, which is a community-run project, conservation project for the rainforest. For how many hectares or acres in the Brazilian rainforest is it?
So
right now right now they have purchased 41,000 hectares.
41,000 hectares.
Which is equivalent to a couple hundred square miles of forest, but they have 6 million hectares that are under contract for future purchase.
Got it.
Yeah. Oh, it's on. Okay. Okay. So I just wanted to jump in. When we try and explain how huge that is, that's like Paris, Amsterdam, and San Francisco. Like it's a massive, massive plot of land.
Yeah. So how did the two of you get involved with the project? I mean, we were just here listening to Sandra and Jeremy, who are both creating and harnessing NFTs to drive climate action. That's essentially something that Nemus is doing as well, with a specific focus on the rainforest. The two of you are advisors. What drove you to get involved with the project?
I'm the game designer on the project, and I've never worked on a conservation project like this one before. I have 18 years in game design, doing projects like Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, and Farmville. I was an economics designer on Farmville. And that stuff, it turns out when you do all that economic modeling, you have to figure out how much gold should you drop so that the player can upgrade their armor in the right amount of time. And that's super relevant to crypto design and crypto economics. And as NFTs and game design and NFTs entering it's these very early stages, and we're starting to see the amount of potential that you can do with economics and game design. Nemus was a project that had the potential to leverage the gamification elements in a really amazing, different way. So that's kind of how I got involved with the project.
So I've been in technology and specifically gaming and entertainment for about 20 years, working across brands like Xbox Marketplace, League of Legends, Dungeons and Dragons, just a lot of different game companies. And one of the things that I learned during that time was the value of online marketplaces, online tokens, players that wanted to represent who they were through visual assets and collectability and what drives communities. And so Brian and I worked on a lot of different projects together over the years, and we discovered Bitcoin back in 2016 and thought this was really interesting. We had done some board games, so we basically put royalties from our board games into something called Bitcoin, which was at the time a few $100s. So we began learning more and more about the communities of blockchain, and began dipping our toes in the Ethereum community, the Bitcoin community, the NEM community, and long story short, began our careers kind of working our way up at the community level. From there, I became nominated by the community for NEM to lead the foundation. So I was the first female lead of a top 10 crypto coin. And so I had been working with different projects, met Charlie and the Nemus team, and they were telling me about what they were doing. And I loved the gamification piece, helping the rainforest, most importantly that it was community driven. And so one of my clients, so right now I work as a Web3 advisor in the space, and I work with a lot of startups like Nemus and DAOs and communities, and specifically Concept Art House is also one of my clients, and they're doing the art for the Nemus project. So I merge them together, both, Nemus and Concept Art House. So it's kind of, I know it's a long-winded story, but it's kind of amazing. The community, the NFT and blockchain technology community is very it's smaller than people think. But anyway, that's how we kind of got together.
Got it. Yeah. So a lot of community marketplace,
Community
many different facets of both your careers. You were the economics of Farmville sound fascinating to me. So, and the economics and the tokenomics of the Nemus project are very intricate and layered. There's a lot going on. For someone who is just kind of new to the NFT space and wants to do something worthwhile to drive impact, and they decide, oh, this is doing something to conserve the rainforest in Brazil, maybe I should participate in this. Can you walk me through the journey of what they'll experience when it comes to the tokenomics of this project?
Sure. So the basic idea is that the land in the rainforest is purchased and held by a trust entity and tokenized, meaning each little parcel of land is represented by an NFT that anyone can hold, and you become a guardian of that parcel. And you can stake it, essentially, put it into conservation mode, which means that you'll earn rewards just from having it preserved and help support the project. Or you can put it into exploration mode, which is how you would be able to explore it for discovering other NFTs that are actually in the rainforest, and you receive an NFT representing a toucan or a capuchin monkey or any of the animals and plants that are actually on that piece of property. And so the bigger picture is that anytime anyone buys, sells, trades, has any activity with the NFTs, it generates a royalty, it generates some income that's put into a treasury, and then that is used to slowly build up resources to put back into control of the DAO and back into the local people's community. And the big eye-opener for me was that I always kind of had the idea that there were some big corporations that were coming in to, cut down the trees and exploit the resources there. And in most cases, it's not that at all. It's local people who don't have many choices for survival, and they can make slightly more income by burning down forest and putting in some cattle. And all you got to do is beat that amount of extra income by giving them economic incentives to keep the forest alive instead of putting down those cattle. And that's not a high bar, right? You're not fighting against some, political machine or giant corporations or something like that. All you're doing is you're helping local people become allies in making their lives a little bit better. And so that's very addressable. That's something that you can do with NFTs and like a game economic system that's generating income to put into those local communities and give them more incentive to keep the forest preserved than to burn it down.
Thank you.
I want to piggyback on that. One of the questions that the Nemus team will get asked is, so are you working with the local communities? Like, is this project just, is it really a circular economy? Does it really go back into the project? It does. So right now, Nemus is working, and I'm going to slaughter the name because I'm not so great at Brazilian, but they currently work with HESEX, which is RESEX, and ICMBIO. And so basically these are specific regions that have that are allocated for sustainable activities like harvesting Brazilian nuts and oils, and it's what that's how the communities make their living. And then there's another area, and that HESEX has 97 communities with about 6,000 people. And then there's another part that Nemus works with, and that is the Funai region. And Funai is responsible for coordinating all of the actions of the HESEX, and that is another 33 indigenous communities. So I bring this up because as this economic model and as this community grows, the Nemus Foundation and the founders, they are working with these communities to be part of the DAO and to take in, like, how is this working? How can we contribute? How can we help with the conservation? Looking at building a nut factory right on that land so that harvesting the Brazilian nuts actually stays within the communities that are participating, and they actually get what they're worth instead of having a middleman come in and buy it for pennies and then go sell it. So it's pretty interesting. They can have the economic solution that Nemus has brought to the table with the Nemus project, but then in addition, they have a voice in the matter, which I think is so important through the DAO.
Yeah, absolutely. So can you tell me some of the things that members of the DAO will be voting on, participating in, what they'll have a say in?
Yeah, so early, we're doing early access now, but the way that we talk about what you'll be able to do with the DAO is vote on where the funds go and the different projects to support. There's the locals that we'll be working with them on specific programs within that land, but everything goes from where the DAO, the funds go in through the DAO, and then having the communities vote on. Go ahead, I can see you want to. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, just because I thought it was interesting. There's a couple of specific examples that have been discussed. So there's one piece of land that has a large clear-cut area on it, and so the discussion is that land that could be replanted and reforested and attempt to restore it to what it was. Or it could be turned into some infrastructure for local people there, or it could be turned into an airport so that goods and services can come and support the people who live there and increase their economic stability. So lots like that. Each piece of land has some specific decisions that need to be made in conjunction with the people who are living there, and then of course. As funds are building up, there will be all kinds of decisions about like what new piece of property should we acquire and attempt to protect next. So the people involved in the DAO will be able to vote on that.
Yeah. One more, I was just checking my notes. One more thing I think is pretty interesting is they're working having, if you're part of the DAO, you will also see drone footage and satellite imagery of the area. And right now you can go to nemus.earth and you can go down to the Guardian app and you can actually see the specific plot, the 41,000 hectares that they've reserved. You can zero in, it's almost like a Google Maps. And so you could actually see the plot of land that you own by being a guardian of that NFT, zero in, and in the future with the satellites and the drones you could actually see like the animals and everything that's all the activity that's going on in that specific land. So I just think that's kind of interesting too. I haven't seen a project do something like that before.
We're taking a long time on this one question, but it's an interesting topic
because we're not able to do visuals here, so I'm glad that you're painting a very vivid picture.
So I mean, I'll admit that when I first looked at this kind of thing, I had a kind of a naive view that all you got to do is buy the land, and then that means no one will be able to cut down the forest, or it'll be safe. But that's not the case at all. You either have to have economic sustainability for the people who live there, and so that they have income and they have an incentive. Because there's almost no place of the rainforest that is completely free or will stay completely free of local people. Or if you don't turn the local people into allies, you have to pay for patrols and people to go and kick off squatters and stop them from clearing the land. And that's not what you want to do at all. But neither one of those is happening right now with the current ownership. Most of the current groups who own these large pieces of land in the Amazon rainforest have many other business interests. It's not a priority for them. They haven't been there or even looked at it for 5 years. They don't know or have a way to deal with squatters who come in and just clear out the land. So that's part of the problem that we're looking to solve.
So that brings me to my next question around the ownership model and why Nemus decided to create an NFT for this project, because would it also be possible to just they bought the hectares, the 41,000 hectares of land, right? So they're owning it, and they could do timeshares. There's a different models. A timeshare sounds really capitalistic and ugly, but you know what I mean? They could do things with the land so that different people have ownership, like fractional land through blockchain, do different models. Why was it important to create and harness NFT technology to do this and to really create the community that way?
Yeah, I mean, do you want to, since you decided, do you want to talk a little bit more about that? Sure. Yeah.
So NFTs are a new way to build a community and give each community membership over a shared project in a way that traditional methods, traditional technologies have not been really possible to do before, and to have them involved with a DAO and a token and voting and have ownership, direct ownership and transparency in a way that you wouldn't get from if a company just came in and divided everything up according to themselves. And they're going to have a native token, and the token is going to be part of the economic system that you can get involved in just the buying, selling, trading of the token, buying, selling, trading of the NFTs, or the game elements of staking the NFTs or exploring the NFTs to generate more NFTs.
I think as the Nemus team was thinking through the project and first designing it, what I loved is the rainforest has 4 different layers. There's the bottom layer. Think of it as like going from scorpion layer all the way up to like eagle layer. You have these, I think it's like 3 million biodiversities in the plants and animals is in the Amazon rainforest. I bring that up because as the Nemus team was thinking through how this project could work, the NFTs actually represent different elements from each of those different kind of planes. And so there is a rarity and a gamification that is possible through DeFi and through the NFTs of highlighting maybe some of the more common flora and fauna and creatures, all the way up to ones that maybe are more rare. And so that was really interesting for them to. You can go on the Nemus.earth website and take a look. They have the card. It's 3D, so you can see it kind of rotate the front and back. And the art is really beautiful. So a couple of the companies that I work with, Concept Art House is one. They're doing a bunch of the cards, but originally the art design was led by Ben Kwok, who is famous for doing the art for different brands, posters for different bands such as Metallica and Blink-182 and Dave Matthews. So his style is very ornate. I bring that up because it's not just there's a utility aspect of the NFT. There's the fact that you can trace everything back using blockchain. There's the DeFi component, which is pretty interesting. There's the DAO component, which is super interesting, having it as a community project. And then you, in addition, having this gorgeous art that is done by world-class artists is just, it's amazing to see. It's just a beautiful project.
I wish you could see the art, because the art was really what sold me on the project.
Yeah, the art is gorgeous.
It's celebrating the biodiversity of the animals, the nature, everything that's in the rainforest, right? Can you talk a little bit more about the local community in that part of Brazil and how they'll be a part of this and how they're actually going to be able to reside on the land? And you mentioned the word circular economy and how that's going to be cultivated.
Yeah, so right now, Flavio is the founder of Nemus. He's the original creator with the concept, and then helped pull together the Nemus team. So he's been working very intimately with these different HESEX, the RESAX, and then FUNAI, which runs all of the different HESEX within the region.
These are the indigenous communities.
These are the indigenous communities. And so what I think people should know that I think is pretty interesting is they have to go through a boat, and they have to go through these, there's no roads. Like, this is like, it's like deep in the forest. And so they go and they spend weeks at a time with these communities and say, what do you need? What are you envisioning? What are the things that are challenging? And then Charlie and the team can come back with solutions to help. So some of the things that the communities have asked is, hey, we have a school, we have no bathrooms for this school, it's very challenging. And so one of the things that Nemus has been able to do is, through some of the funds collected, actually put in bathrooms for the students, basic amenities that you would normally take for granted. They can vote and work with the communities to actually help empower the communities for it's tailored to their needs. So the funds actually go back into the communities, go back into the project, and then as the DAO gets bigger with more NFT guardians, that's what you're called if you own an NFT. You're literally guarding the land. You're a guardian. Then you'll be able to work with all of us who are part of the DAO will be able to work with the communities on what other needs that they may have. And like Brian said before, deciding whether or not we build a factory, or do you have deforestation in this one area, do you plant Brazilian seeds, or what do you do with those funds? So pretty interesting. It's based on the specific communities and their needs at the time.
That makes sense, and it sounds like there's going to be a great opportunity for not just the indigenous communities to be part of a circular economy that's being in some ways facilitated through Nemus and the NFT holders who will now be guardians of their parts of the rainforest, but there's a great opportunity for members of the community who are not indigenous to learn potentially some indigenous wisdom about protecting the environment, about the ways that they've been stewards of the land their entire lives. I mean, they're like they're the front line of conservation.
Yeah, there's I think there's a misconception that I learned about. I was naive to this before. There's, we're going to preserve the land. So Brian had talked about that. We're going to preserve the land and, just buy it and you protect it. It really doesn't work that way. You have loggers, you have people who have come in, and it doesn't matter that this is your land or not your land. They're squatting on it. There is a lot that goes into protecting the rainforest beyond once you have that land. There is an education of why it is worth more to have the rainforest alive than dead. And so there definitely is that Nemus is founded on conservation. If we can work with the communities, and if we can work with normal everyday people like you and I who can protect the rainforest, because we need that rainforest, right? We're at a tipping point right now.
It's the Earth's lungs.
Yeah, it's the Earth's lungs. So actually, the conservation piece, I think, is super important. And there's an education piece that goes into it. There's community buy-in. And then most importantly, bringing this technology to a community and showing them how this can be used to empower, empower them in new ways. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to jump in. But there's a bigger context here, too, which is what we're looking at is new economic models that haven't really been done before ever, that are now enabled because of NFT technology. And there's very much the potential that if a new economic model like this one, or maybe another one, if it's successful and it's proven out, it can be expanded all over the world. And from a game industry perspective, we're all familiar with, there's a hit game, it proves to be popular, work really well. Wow, now there's 1,000 copies of it. That's something that is great that could happen here, like extending this not just to the rainforest, but to all different areas of the world that are under similar kinds of threats.
And Nemus wants people to basically take the project and duplicate it and towards the sea, or what other projects out there can basically use the model and code from Nemus and create something equally as powerful to conserve other parts of the world. So I think that's pretty cool, and that's a shared kind of mindset. And the power of Web3 and communities is we're going to take something and then we're going to use it and build on it and continue to nurture. And Nemus has also been working with other communities, just so you know. So the Zen Academy, Concept Art House, the Woody's NFT, Meta Angel. These are
A lot of values aligned Web3 projects.
like tribe communities that are legit and are thriving through community collaboration and education. So I think that's pretty powerful.
Can we touch on Ethereum at all and Nemus's position on using Ethereum to mint NFTs?
Yeah.
Okay. For anybody who doesn't know, I think some people in here might know, some people not. So Ethereum is a proof of work chain. Without getting too technical, it just means it uses a lot of energy, right? And so they're building an Ethereum 2, which will be proof of stake, which uses less. But most NFTs are minted on the Ethereum blockchain. And because there are a lot of environmentalists in the world who do not believe in that, there's debate around NFTs being used for doing any good in the world, because they're saying, how can you do that if you're minting on Ethereum, which puts out all these carbon emissions in the world? I have very specific views on that, but I'd love to hear the Nemus perspective on that.
Yeah.
We're not going to stop using electricity. We're not going to stop using Ethereum.
No.
So I think we need to end that argument. But Nemus has a specific position on that, because you're obviously environmentalists.
Yeah, they do. I'll have you weigh in on the actual gamification and tokenomics around that. But I'll say Nemus is built on Ethereum. Ethereum is the platform, the protocol that first gave birth to NFTs. And like you said, it is the most widely adopted protocol. It has the most activity. Like, let's be honest, if when you're working on projects, Ethereum has bridges to other protocols. It has a lot of the dApps and a lot of the partnerships through communities to support it, and that ecosystem is valuable. And so Nemus originally picked that protocol. However, as the project expands, new and there's bridges to L2s, other protocols they plan to expand as well. I will say Nemus has this. They're doing this pretty interesting thing. It's not live yet, but they'll have a calculator basically on the website where you can put in your NFT project, and you can take a look at, let's say you're minting 10,000 NFTs. You can actually see what the impact of your project would be on using carbon. And then if you were at the same vein, if you were to go and be a guardian for a specific land in Nemus and protect that land in the Amazon rainforest, how many NFTs of Nemus to protect the specific rainforest you would need to offset your project being built on Ethereum. So I think that's pretty interesting. They don't want to. I think the goal has always been to work with the Ethereum community to build up and create change, and this is a short-term problem. It's not a long-term problem with Ethereum, but they're definitely supporters of the protocol. Do you want to add anything else into that?
Yeah, it's a valid criticism to look at the shortcomings of Ethereum, but in the big picture, I think the right approach is to take action now and look for solutions to those criticisms in the future, because hesitating and waiting until things are perfect is not going to move things forward.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a lot going on around carbon credits and different platforms that are enabling carbon removal of your NFTs. But with Nemus, you're able to do a carbon offset because of carbon sequestration. Yeah. Right. Will you explain that to everybody?
I've been talking a whole bunch. Do you want to? Go ahead. Yeah. So I'm not the founder. I'm just an advisor on it. But I'll tell you that the way that Nemus has been, their approach is through creating this barrier in the rainforest through the 41,000 hectares that they have been able to get. There is a specific amount of land, and through working with the different communities, then they're actually protecting that land. So you can come in and buy. I think it's the NFTs range from small, medium, large, extra large, and extra large. But depending on the specific NFT and the size, there are certain rewards and incentives, like Brian was saying, that you can get through. I know the wind is a little crazy right now. That you can get through. Owning that NFT of the land. So let's say that you have an extra large NFT, which would be one of the largest ones in Nemus. So for instance, Concept Art House is an advisor. I'm an advisor for them, but they have an extra large piece of land. They know that any future projects that they create in the future, they can know that the land that they have been able to secure through Nemus is going to offset, any particular project that they do in the future from a carbon emissions
through carbon
standpoint.
sequestration
Yeah.
because of the rainforest.
Yeah. So I think I think it's valuable because it's not just in the future, or it's not just we're planning to do this, but we can actually buy this NFT and do something about it today for future projects.
Yeah. When you acquire the NFT, it shows you how much carbon how many tons of carbon is being sequestered by that guardianship.
Does everyone know what carbon sequestration is? Would you explain?
Carbon sequestration is the amount of carbon in the carbon cycle that is locked in to the forest land and kept from contributing to carbon emissions by keeping the land preserved.
So that's why it's also important that the 41,000 hectares is just the beginning, but they're also negotiating for an additional land within the area. The more land that they can protect, then the less of a carbon impact it can be for the future.
Well, that's one of the things that I appreciate about the model, because there's so much conversation around carbon credits. All the governments in the world are trying to get on it. Corporations are obviously in on it. If you're getting, they're in it for the credit, but there are other ways to manage credit. There are real world ways in real life to manage the carbon.
And this is what Nemus is not a carbon credit play. That is not what they're about. They are 100% conservation and taking a look at, through conservation and real world activities, how can anyone contribute in a way that can have impact. It's not about carbon credits. It's about conservation.
I just looked it up here. A medium parcel is 1 hectare, and it represents 350 tons of locked carbon.
So if you buy a Nemus NFT, you can sequester 350 tons of carbon?
Yeah, that's right. And
Okay.
that's a medium-sized parcel. That's about 2 football fields. The smallest one that you can acquire is a 1/4 hectare. It's about half a football field, and that represents about 75 tons of locked carbon.
Yeah, and you can go, if you get on your mobile phone, you can look at app.nemus, Nemus.earth, and it lists all of the different NFT sizes, and so you can actually look at yourself and figure out what you would need.
Thank you so much. Well, we're just about ready to wrap for lunch, but does anybody have any questions for the 2 advisors of Nemus about the opportunity to conserve the rainforest, about economics and tokenomics?
Right now, it's really focused on the Brazilian rainforest. And in fact, if you go on Google Earth or Google Maps, you can see the deforestation creeping from south to north, big strips of clear-cutting land. And the focus right now is to create a protective belt. And they have the owners of the land lined up in negotiation to create hundreds of square miles of protective barrier to stop this this creeping, like yearly creeping deforestation. So they're laser focused on put a stop to that burning as soon as possible. In the future, there's lots of discussion of other areas.
Yeah, the region right now is Pauini, and so you can go into Nemus.earth and click on Guardian app, and then it will take you to the actual map. And you guys, this is so cool. You can zero in and see the different, land, but you can also see, for the first drop, which is the Genesis drop, it's the Pauini region, and that's what they've been working with. And then drop 2, I forgot the name of the region, but they actually have mapped out all the different parcels that would help support that barrier. So pretty cool. And that is with the input of the communities and the landowners that they're working with now.
How dangerous is it, with all the illegal operations happening there?
So I learned about this too. I didn't know. I didn't realize that there was squatters and illegal activities that happened, and also deforestation. Brian had mentioned earlier, they don't have. It's not like the locals have a bunch of armed guards to come in and protect the rainforest.
No police.
There's no police. So at all. So it is hard if you are building in that community and there's activities that can make it difficult for you. You can't just call the police, and so you really have to work with the local community on finding other means, and most importantly, it all as much does is reduced to what is the economic viability in that region, and how can we help support those communities. But yes, there is. It's not easy to get to. Not a lot of resources, and the communities know how to best navigate the communities, which is why you work with the communities to figure out, okay, how can we work with these communities to ensure that they have the resources, education, and new business models to help them with the challenges they have.
Yeah, so I think the answer is sometimes it can be dangerous, but we've had quite a few members of our team go there and see the land and see the areas themselves, and that's one of the reasons to partner with the local communities, because when they are your allies, it becomes much less dangerous.
And they also, they're also working with, I don't want to say in partnership with the Brazilian government, because that's not true, but the Brazilian government is aware of Nemus and has been informed and educated on the project, and then working with the communities like FUNAI and HESEX. So there is a lot of education and understanding of what they're trying to do, and I think that's really, really important.
Thank you both. I think we're ready to wrap for lunch now, and I'm going to stand in the sunlight right there for a few seconds. So we're going to break for about 45 to 50 minutes for lunch, and then we're starting with the Women in Web 3 block, which will be kicking off with care.org.
Yay. And I have one more thing. If you're interested for early access, I've been working with Melissa, and if you have your Ethereum address or if you have an email address, I'll be over here and I can write it down, and then we can send you early access, and so you can check it out.
Thank you.
Thank you.